There is no bigger story right now than the Jon Gruden, resignation on Monday night and the aftermath, the tentacles, the questions, the issues. Shireen, I'm just going to throw it to you right out of the gates because I talked about it for 2 hours today with Sims. I've been doing radio all day. I was on Dan Patrick, I was on Rich Eyes, and I was here, I was there. I want to hear what you think about what's gone on over basically the last 21 hours.
Just amazed at how quickly this happened, Mike. I honestly thought that Urban Meyer would be the first head coach in the NFL to go this season. I really did. And all of a sudden, we're talking Jon Gruden on late Friday, and then it picks up steam yesterday, and he's gone. And you knew after the New York Times story came out, I think our response on the text string on PFT, everybody was like, wow, unbelievable. You know, here we go, and it's time for him to resign. And it didn't take long after that story came out that he did resign. But I think it was obvious after we all saw that story that the resignation was coming or a firing was coming. And it happened very, very quickly. But just amazed at how quickly this spun, Mike, you think from Friday night to where we are today.
And I can't help but wonder if he would have avoided the release of emails on Monday to the New York Times if he had resigned or if he had been fired Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday morning. Now, I have operated under my own belief, and I've heard things that support this. This isn't speculation. This isn't pulling things out of the air. This isn't throwing darts. This is a serious situation, and I'm going to make sure that I'm as accurate and clear as I can be. The league leaked this information. A source that I trust completely has told me this was leaked by the league, not by some rogue investigator who was dismayed by these emails and took it upon himself or herself to provide this information to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. This is something that was leaked by the league. Now, Brian McCarthy, NFL spokesman, has gone on the record in an email I got just before the show started to say to me that they did not leak this. And look, okay, fine. He's on the record to say that he didn't. Fine. That doesn't mean I have to accept it. And I'm not going to provide that function where I'm just going to be somebody who says, hey, they said they didn't do it, and not comment any further. I reserve the right to say I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm not saying McCarthy's lying. McCarthy's passing along what someone told to him. I think that it was not an accident. It was not something that just happened. It wasn't a result of the Wall Street Journal and or the New York Times scurrying through dumpsters or having secret meetings with sources in parking garages or digging and digging and digging. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We heard something, and we're getting to the bottom. If you're getting to the bottom of it, get Dan Snyder's emails, not Jon Gruden's, because they're all in the same bucket at this point. There's got to be more interesting emails in there than Jon Gruden's. And if you got Snyder's and Gruden's, and only Gruden's have inflammatory information, it would be relevant to say there's been a thorough review of Dan Gruden's emails to Bruce Allen, and there's nothing in there of any consequence because people believe there may be. So to me, it's the tip of the iceberg. To me, there's other stuff out there that will continue to be hidden. Other people will be nervous, Shireen, who communicated with Bruce Allen during his employment with the Washington football team, who can't go scrub their emails. Not that I think you can effectively scrub them anyway. Those emails are already part of the 650,000 trove that is buried somewhere until someone wants to pull a handful of them out and use them against someone. And that's what I'm ultimately concerned about, the ability of someone, if they see fit, to pull out a handful of emails about somebody that, for whatever reason, they may decide between now and whenever they want to deal with. They've got the ultimate weapon. And they don't have to release the emails. They can say, you saw what happened with Gruden. If you walk away, you'll never have to worry about these being leaked. I'm not saying anyone's going to do it, but the circumstances allow us to say, holy crap, that could happen.
Yeah, no question, Mike. And it's fine for the NFL to go on record and say we had nothing to do with this. They haven't said, hey, we're opening an investigation to see how these emails leaked out, who has them, what else is coming out. There's none of that. They haven't started an investigation to find out who leaked these emails, presumably because they know who leaked these emails. I can't imagine a ton of people were privy to these emails, Mike. This came from the top of the food chain because not that many people within the league, I am certain, had these emails and knew what they were. Now, why did they decide to target Jon Gruden? Because, as you said, I can't imagine that in 650,000 emails, that was the only emails that would have gotten someone in trouble. I can't imagine that. Are there others that are going to come out toward other people? Or, as you said, are they going to call these people and say, hey, here's what we have, you need to resign? Are we going to see resignations within the NFL? There are a lot of nervous people, I am certain, in this league. And I do have to wonder, Mike, when this Washington football team investigation started of a toxic workplace culture that they had there, was Jon Gruden nervous? He knew what he had sent, right? He says he didn't in that Friday social media post statement he put out, but was he truly nervous? Because he knew those emails he had sent to Bruce Allen were on Bruce Allen's Washington football team account. So was he nervous at that point that all of this was going to come to a head? I'm guessing that he wasn't, but he probably should have been. And now I'm guessing that there are a lot of people who know emails that they sent to someone within the Washington organization on a work email who are now nervous in this league, Mike, waiting for their shoe to fall.
Yeah, and look, I'm astounded that Jon Gruden did not walk away in the aftermath of Friday's report, because in addition to what was leaked to the Wall Street Journal, materials were provided to the Raiders. Materials were provided again on Monday to the Raiders. At some point between Friday night and the publication of the New York Times story on Monday night, you would think that Gruden would have realized there's more coming, and if I get out, maybe they won't be published. And look, it's been another day. Now, I don't know that there will be more published. I would bet there won't be, because what someone wanted finally happened. He walked away. Even if there were more, there's no reason at this point to continue to leak them. So as you raise that very good point as to whether or not the NFL would indeed be investigating whether and who and how those emails were leaked to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, I thumbed out a response to Brian McCarthy saying, are you investigating? I think it's a fair question, and I think we need to keep pushing, and I think we need to keep pressing, because common sense suggests, and the things I've heard suggest, that this was a code red that was ordered by someone high enough to order it, and there aren't a whole lot of people on that list, quite frankly. So this is something that I think is not going away anytime quickly, and I'm not sure whoever put this in motion, whoever pushed down the first domino, understood where it was going to go. Because, you know, Shereen, let's go back to July 1st. The NFL successfully announced the penalties that were attached to the Washington football team investigation without releasing the findings. Afternoon of July 1, heading into a 4-day Independence Day weekend with no one really paying attention again until the following Tuesday. By the time Tuesday rolled around, nobody cared. By the time Tuesday rolled around, nobody was saying, how in the hell can the NFL have this extended investigation, hire a lawyer to do it? She doesn't even create a report. There's no transparency after Deflategate, Bullygate, Bountygate. How is this all hidden, and how is that acceptable, and why are they protecting Daniel Snyder? That died. That fizzled and died like the last shot of a Roman candle, as John Madden used to say. It was gone by the time the 4th of July holiday ended. And how did they not realize that dusting off the $650,000 trove, or 650,000 email trove, and releasing a few wasn't going to cause people to say, and they're saying it now, Shereen. That's what's encouraging to me. I've heard from readers and viewers all day long in media who sometimes may look the other way when it comes to things the NFL did or didn't do, saying this is BS. You can't just release the Gruden emails and and hide the rest. We need more because, on one hand, it's either an outlier and Jon Gruden was the only one who was doing this, or there are people who are saying everybody in the NFL acts this way and communicates this way. Those two extremes aren't true. The truth is in the middle, and the only way to get to the truth, the only way to begin to get to the truth, is to see the 650,000 emails.
It's pretty incredible, Mike, that this all stems out of that Washington football team investigation, and the one guy who loses his job has no connection to the Washington football team. Bruce Allen has now taken down Jay Gruden, and the emails from Jon Gruden to Bruce Allen have taken down Jon Gruden. But he had no connection to the Washington football team. And it's left you with this feeling that there's no transparency, no accountability with this. Someone in Washington, Dan Snyder, should have lost his job over what transpired in Washington. Instead, it's Jon Gruden who loses his job, and he should have lost his job. No question about that. He should have. But the fact that this began as a Washington football team investigation and the one guy who loses his job is in Las Vegas just astounds me that this is where we are. And we do need something else. Again, we talked about officiating yesterday for a long time about no accountability. This is another thing that the NFL has no accountability, no transparency. We are left with so many questions, and those within the NFL are left with so many questions, Mike.
And the fact that one of the emails, or some of the emails, not just one, according to the New York Times report, that were exchanged between Jon Gruden and Bruce Allen and other men had photos of women wearing only bikini bottoms, including one photo of two Washington team cheerleaders. That overlaps, that meshes with, that crosses over to part of why they were doing this investigation in the first place. Where'd that photo come from? Who got it? That video of the outtakes from the cheerleader photo shoot. Once that report came to light from the Washington Post, that's when the NFL snatched the investigation away from the Washington football team. So this goes not directly to the heart, but it's pretty damn close to the heart of what they were doing in the first place. And, as we talk this through, Shireen, because, again, I've talked about this a lot today, and I've taken a lot of different questions from a lot of different people. And one of the things that occurred to me is that the only way to fully get to the truth on this is not just to have the Washington football team related emails, but everyone's. Every team.
Yeah.
Because, at a time when we're all wondering who really else is acting like Jon Gruden, the only way we would have known how Jon Gruden was acting is to have this scenario where he was buddies with a guy who worked for the Washington football team, the team that ended up under investigation. There are plenty of other coaches and executives and friends out there that may have been communicating the exact same way for the last 10 years or longer, and there's no way to know it unless we see them all. But what we do know is there are 650,000 emails that continue to be hidden. And think about the last decade in Washington. Think about the people who have worked there, the coaches who have come from there, who have worked on the staffs there. I would assume all their emails are part of this too. And again, we don't know what they say until we have full transparency, but if they would ever release all of these, Shireen, we get a 132nd slice. You know how, like with the Packers, you get 132nd slice of the financial situation of the entire league because the Packers' financial picture must be disclosed publicly every year because they are a publicly held corporation. There's a chance we get a 132nd slice of how people behave via email, other communications in Washington, if and when they ever release that information. They say they're not going to do it. The Washington Post reported again today they're not going to do it. Well, I don't think it's going to go away quickly and quietly, and I think that they're going to get more and more pressure on them to come up with a way to produce some of the emails, even if they don't produce all of them.
They've gone down the rabbit hole, Mike. There's no turning back now, and there's going to be questions about this thing, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. Just because Jon Gruden resigned, I don't know if whoever released these is expecting us to just everybody to just say, okay, well, that's it. He's the only one. We're all good now. Hey, we're great. That's not going to happen. These questions are going to linger again and again and again. And the next time that Roger Goodell speaks to the media, he's going to be asked repeatedly about this and what the other emails are out there that we haven't seen, 650,000. I will guarantee you that Jon Gruden is not the only one. Again, he was the one who was targeting this, but I guarantee you there are more people in this. And I am astounded, Mike. I hear these stories not just in the NFL, but everywhere else, that someone is dumb enough to put something in writing on a company email that you know can get you in trouble. It just astounds me that people continue to do this again and again and again. But I guarantee you, in those 650,000 emails, Jon Gruden is not the only one who said something that could get him or her fired.
When I practiced law, I rarely won cases with testimony. I won cases with documents. Documents are undeniable. Documents are frozen in time forever. And if you get somebody behaving in a very loose and bawdy and over-the-top and inappropriate way in writing, in an email, it's a hell of a lot easier to prove whatever it is you're trying to prove. And most people are smart enough not to reduce their private thoughts to writing, or even to reduce their private thoughts to words. Donald Sterling had to sell the LA Clippers because of private comments he made in his home. There are no private communications unless you're talking to your spouse, a lawyer, a doctor, or in some jurisdictions, a priest. There are no privileges, and anything you say can and will be used against you. I guess we should say can or will be used against you, because it doesn't mean it will be, but it can be. The thought is no longer private the moment it escapes your mouth or your fingertips. And I was on with Dan Abrams on his Sirius XM channel today for a good 40 minutes talking about this. And he's a very firm believer in this is a dangerous precedent. And, you know, would it be right? Would it be fair? Would it be just to look through all these emails and release all these emails? And are there no private communications? And I think you could argue there are no private communications. Because when it's time to go to trial, when it's time to piece together what happened in whatever setting, whatever the theory, a civil case, a criminal case, whatever, every question is a fair question unless it falls within a privilege, like attorney-client. And you have to answer the question, what did he say to you next? Even if it was just two of you in a private conversation, what was said next? That's fair game. So I think the broader lesson is everything you say, everything you do, everything you create, every record of your existence is potentially something that you may have to stand to account for later, so act accordingly.
Yeah, no question about that, Mike. And a question I have, and I'll throw this to you, is Mark Davis in some sense relieved because this got him out of a really bad contract he gave to Jon Gruden? And this team was 22-31 under Gruden. It's not what he or the Raiders expected when they hired Jon Gruden to come back to lead the organization. So is he relieved now to get out of this contract and be able to do something else, do you think?
Well, we don't know whether or not there was a negotiation that preceded Jon Gruden resigning. Did they agree that he would get X percent of his remaining guaranteed money? When that contract was first reported in early 2018, I was told that it may not be fully guaranteed. It's not a full $100 million fully guaranteed, and it may be backloaded, and there may be some escape hatches there. It just sounded good. It was big. It's Vegas. 10 years, $100 million, regardless of whether or not it's ever paid. So I don't know how much Gruden was still owed in guaranteed money, and it's possible that Gruden will get something and signed something. The smart thing to do, if you're Mark Davis and Mark Davis's lawyers, is to get everything in writing, everything understood, that Gruden is walking away with a full waiver of claims, and he gets something in consideration for it, and he signs an NDA. I doubt that it was as simple as everything hit the fan last night. Mark Davis goes into the office. They get together for 5 minutes, and Davis says, you either got to quit or I got to fire you. Okay, I'll quit, and that's it. there's too much at stake here to just rip the Band-Aid off and move on. So my guess is, and that's a good point, and I need to write about it at PFT because a lot of people have asked about it. And in my mind, it's one of those issues you drill down to after you've addressed everything else, and I think you raised it at an appropriate time. But I think it's an appropriate time for me to explain in writing, and hopefully I've explained it effectively here, how this all works. And it would be foolish if Gruden and Davis didn't negotiate something to a conclusion. And look, if Gruden walked out without any type of resolution to his contract and he wants to swing back around and get more and say, you know I quit, but I quit because you told me you were going to fire me. So I didn't have any choice but to quit. So it was a constructive discharge, so I should still get my money. If he pushes that, typically these contracts require those disputes to be resolved by the commissioner. So good luck winning if you're one of the guys trying to sue for relief a team that employs the commissioner. That's going to be a tough thing to do, and it typically is a tough thing to do. And I can't remember. I think, didn't the Raiders lose the Lane Kiffin grievance? I think they did lose the Lane when Lane Kiffin sued. Remember, they had the overhead projector, and Al Davis dumped on Lane Kiffin incessantly and didn't pay him. They lost that one. I don't think they'd lose this one, but they lost that one.
No.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.